Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. It is the morning after the mayoral debate. There were big moments, big personalities, and a little bit of substance. Our panel of experts is here to go over the top issues. We've got the host of Flashpoint, Jason Coulthorpe, is here, CEO of Focus Hope, Portia Roberson, and Mario Moro with Mario Moro and Associates. We're going to start with what is absolutely the #1 issue for Detroit voters. That would be crime. Mary Sheffield and Solomon Kinloch Jr. were both asked about crime stats and what they will do to help solve violent crime, especially crime involving youth.
I've had the honor and I've had the burden, although it was a blessing, to be able to give children dignity in death that they didn't give in life, because their life was taken too soon. One of the reasons I believe that there's such a disconnect is because Detroiters deserve two things. They deserve safety and they deserve justice. And the reality is, anytime you have a department that's grading their own tests, you're going to have a problem with the fudging of the answers and the fudging of the numbers. We have to hold those that are in leadership accountable to do what they have promised the citizens of Detroit to do, that they're going to deliver not just justice but safety.
Now, while we've had historic record lows of crime in Detroit, in just this year alone, we've seen a reduction in all categories of violent crime compared to last year. We know that one life lost is still far too many. I believe in a comprehensive and holistic approach to public safety that is rooted in strong partnerships with our law enforcement agencies and our community. I will ensure as mayor that we are investing in prevention, more year-round youth employment for our young people, ensuring that we're expanding our community violence intervention work, that we are launching the city's first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention, and that we're investing in intervention, expanding community policing efforts, boots on the ground in our neighborhoods, and also our mental health co-response as well.
This is not a time to take a victory lap, particularly when you're seeing mothers and fathers sitting on the front row of a funeral and they are living life in reverse. Because no parent expects to have to bury their child. They expect that their children are going to bury them. And while we've done some great things, and while our council president have done some great things, they're not good enough and they've not gone far enough.
Would you like? Yeah, I think what we don't need is someone who consistently calls out the problems. We've heard not one solution in his response to how we can address the issue of public safety. I am on the ground firsthand with victims and families daily, advocating for funding for our CVI groups. He's been completely absent. So we don't need someone who calls out problems and challenges. We need someone who can address them and solve them. And that is what we will continue to do by investing in our community violence work, ensuring that DPD has the resources that they need, and that we continue to drive down violence in this city.
All right, so as we said at the beginning of the show, a lot of talk, but not a whole lot of substance, which kind of goes towards this conversation here. Again, Mario, Portia, and Jason here. One of the conversations around crime has always been advocacy and resources and funding, but we rarely ever hear, here's exactly what I'm going to do. Right. And I think Detroiters wanted to hear that last night. I don't know if they did. Portia?
Well, I think, quite honestly, I think Mary had a little bit more of what she was going to do because of stuff that she's been doing as city council president. I don't think, the problem with the debate is that the time limits restrict you from really laying out your policy. Sure. And I think that in some ways it requires voters to go and really look at what are the fundamental hardcore things that a mayoral candidate is going to implement when they become mayor. And so I think, we live in a time where, you try to get something out there, and I think Mary did a better job of that.
Okay, Mario, what do you think?
I agree with the fact that there was no real substance there. I disagree a little bit with, I think that there is enough time in a debate, if you have great debate prep, to come up with some very good points of what you're going to do. I mean, this comes down to funding. I know these guys do not want to make promises that they can't keep because the clip will be rerun later on in life.
But bring the receipts, as they
But bring the receipts.
Right.
But you got to talk about, at least something that's going to connect with voters. And Portia, you know as well as I do that one of the things that's lacking in our community, and not just this community, but overall in the country, is that people don't do their research. Yeah. We're built on sound bites and what people say and what they think they can accomplish over time. So I think they could have done a better job. We didn't hear a lot. We heard a lot of disagreement, I don't think they like each other very much based on this past debate.
I was surprised by how nasty it got, how quickly.
Yeah.
it got.
Especially about his church is in her district, and you never show up. You're not showing up in your own district, and that was you could tell.
But
there were a couple-
you never came to me either as
Right.
our council president.
I was looking at the eyes a couple of those exchanges, and I thought, oh boy, they are thinking some things right now because they know some things. I agree with you, Mario, too, a little bit that I think there is enough time. Especially, it was just a few weeks ago, Ike McKinnon wrote an op-ed about youth violence. And he said it starts with parents, and he got very specific. Yeah. And it felt last night, Kinloch was very general. Mary drilled down a little bit more with her, and I heard neighborhood groups. So it got a little more specific. But I'm like, if you have a plan at all, dive into where it starts. Yeah. Where does it begin?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue the conversation, not necessarily about crime, but also bigger picture here with the question, will you support the National Guard coming in? Sheffield said no. Kinloch wasn't too firm on a yes or no, but both welcome federal resources for underlying issues in their answers. Now, in those answers, though, that's when things started to get heated towards the beginning of their debate, both accusing each other of not being present.
He has the ability to convene, that he talks about convening a table, putting stakeholders together. He's been absent on every single public safety initiative in this city. We just recently were fighting for funds to come from Lansing to Detroit to save our public safety trust fund and continue the grassroots work that is happening in our communities. The pastor was silent. And so we do need more than rhetoric and talk and slogans. We need leadership that delivers. I've done that, and I will continue to do that as mayor of this city.
She keep talking about what she's tried, what she's tried, what she's tried. Listen, people in this city are not looking for movement. They're looking for substance. They're looking for change. For 12 years, you sat at the table. That is the legislative body. City council is the legislative body. They create, they build. The mayor administers, he executes. Anything that she wants to do as mayor, she could have done it seated at the city council table the last 12 years. And so at the end of the day, why is it that she didn't do it?
Plan with a couple of.
Right, so that's actually a pretty interesting point, and that's the one we're going to talk about here, is that Kinloch has said that repeatedly, that you've been in that seat and you've been in council for 12 years and you haven't accomplished what he says she should have. Does that carry any weight with voters?
Well, you know, debate is interesting because people say things, again, in sound bites. Mm-hmm. But President Sheffield has proposed at least 12 proposals, bills in the city council that some of them have been very successful. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of disingenuous. However, there are successes and there are failures. I think people try to capture on the failures more than the successes, and that is people who are listening, because they don't, I haven't getting anything out of this deal or any housing or whatever the case may be. But I do think that it does resonate more on the negative than it does on the positive.
Mm-hmm. Some of those, by the way, didn't they butt heads with what the mayor wanted, and so she got some of her legislation through, but other stuff,
a lot of it
mayor's
was
office quashed.
The people's bills or something like that.
The people's bill, the people's plan, and fundamentally there was going to be compromise there. So I mean, she wasn't going to get everything through that she wanted to get through.
And negotiated down.
Exactly. And I think the problem that Pastor Kinloch had was that he talked about what she didn't do, but he didn't spend enough time talking about real facts about what he was going to do. And that's what I think voters really want to see. They want to know what you're going to do. I mean, I had this conversation with somebody a week ago where it was like, if you're running for an office, tell me what you're going to do. Don't start bashing the other guy. And I think Solomon went there first. And
right out of the gate,
and it was just not good. I was like, why would you do that? Why start talking about what she didn't do? Just tell us what you're going to do. At this point, we're weeks out.
It felt like the most recent statistics on the poverty rate being higher this year and the recent stats in violence as well. The department's saying the numbers are lower, but the rate is still very high according to the FBI. And he seized on those two right out of the gate.
I read some social media comments. Obviously, Mary Sheffield leading in almost every poll, if not every poll, that they were thinking maybe he just goes down swinging. Maybe try something because he hasn't been too aggressive on the attacks. Did it work?
I don't think it worked, and I agree with Portia. You have to talk about, especially, and I was very surprised that this didn't happen from the beginning of the campaign. Lay out a plan of action. What are you going to do? He propelled over the other candidates in the primary. That got him there. But what are you going to, where's the substance? What are you going to, she's been in office for 12 years. She's got some accomplishments. You have no success rate in public office. However, of course, you've done some things with your church. But people want to hear about, what are you going to do for me? Like, what have you done for me lately?
Right.
And it just didn't come across well at all.
It's been a missed opportunity, I think, throughout this campaign. We talked, I think we were here and we talked right after the primary. And I think Mario and I agreed that we thought he was going to revamp and sort of come out with a whole new campaign strategy.
A new campaign team.
A new campaign team. I mean, she won by 51% of the vote, so it was already going to be a steep climb.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see that. I mean, it's sort of a missed opportunity. I think it's also a missed opportunity for Detroiters because we thought for the first time in a long time, in 12 years, that we were going to have two candidates and we were going to be fighting down to the wire about who is it going to be, who is it going to be.
In the community.
That's the dirty little secret here is several journalists and outlets have been trying to get a debate or a forum set in place in the campaigns, frankly, haven't been very cooperative. We tried to have a debate here at Local 4. Our requirements were a live audience and in the city of Detroit. Couldn't get over weeks of negotiation, couldn't get them to agree on that. Then plan B is to have them both on Flashpoint. And up to this point, we've only been able to get Mary Sheffield. We had a plan there to at least put them on together asking the same questions.
Sure, a mini debate, so to speak. Right.
Well, if I was advising the Kinloch team right now, I would say do every opportunity.
Everything.
Everything. I would show up at everywhere.
As soon as the primary was over, it should have been
exactly.
everywhere and anywhere. Like
We
the
thought there'd be
primary
more-
season was,
We should be
we
sick
had a
of
lot
Solomon
these.
Kinloch.
Right. We thought there'd be more
should be
media
tired
buzz.
of him.
I've
Right.
seen Sheffield. I haven't seen much of Kinloch.
Well, I saw
And
the Sheffield the commercial aired right after the debate. That was strategically powerful.
Exactly.
I mean, I was like, whoa.
And Sheffield, quite honestly, doesn't have to do anything. I mean, she's the one who could say, I'm not coming, I'm not going, and I think that speaks to what her leadership will be like, that she's shown up, even though when you win 51% of the vote, you don't really have to go anywhere, right? Like your opponent has the stretch.
I would,
you.
if I was Solomon Kinloch, I would have been on every station this morning. I would have just been, my talking points.
Don't go to sleep, just roll through the whole night.
Exactly.
What's going on?
There's two different ways to attack. He can attack it negatively if he wanted to. There's plenty of negative press on Mary Sheffield, and if he wants to try and be positive and have a positive message.
And if you're not, if you're going to run, if you're going to say it in a debate, like I've got 195 pages or whatever the page is, I've got this.
We're actually,
what?
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to play that sound bit where he says, I think it was 140 pages or something like that. You're going to hear it in just a moment here. Welcome back, everybody. Again, Mario Mora, Portia Robertson, Jason Coulthard here on the roundtable. We've talked already about the tension in last night's debate. It started early and kind of ramped up throughoutwards. And I think about 45 minutes left is when things really got heated and the tension was almost palpable in the room. Take a listen.
If I was an institutional politician, I would have taken the 140 pages of pre-op of opposition research I had on you and smeared your name every day. But I have not done that. But y'all have done that to me every chance you get. And I know that you're doing it.
I have no need to try to tarnish his reputation or to go after him. I think voters in this city have been very clear the way they showed up in this last election. I've engaged with them and will continue to show up and engage with our voters. The pastor indicated at the first debate that construction doesn't happen by destruction and that you don't have to tear someone else down to build someone else up. But that is exactly what you've been doing. So I guess you don't practice what you preach. Again, we must focus on the issues of this city, and we need someone who's not talking about challenges, but actually providing solutions, which he has failed to do.
You have attacked my church. You have attacked me. You've attacked my wife. You've attacked every good work that we've done in this community, and I have not attacked you. This is not the type of leadership this city needs. This city needs leadership that is going to work with people. Yes, we are opponents and we're in opposition, but we're not enemies. We have both done great things, and we can do great things together if you wasn't so adversarial about it.
All right, so you see that, you hear that. What do you think?
I think, again, missed opportunities on the part of Solomon Kinloch. I mean, if there's opposition research and you want to drop it and there's something substantive that you think voters should know, then just drop it, right? But the reality of it is that nobody cares about any of that right now. I mean, people want to hear what you're going to do for Detroit. People were looking and waiting for a race that was not seemingly decided before it even started, because that's what we've had for basically the last 12 years. And to hear that there's opposition research, that's part of politics, and that's part of a campaign. We know you both have done research on each other. If you haven't,
we would hope so. At least.
We would hope so, right? Exactly. And so if you had it,
but if you do it, you better use it.
You better use it. Exactly.
Yeah. And we heard it strategically dropped a little bit. The residency issue wasn't just a, hey, you don't live in the city, or you didn't, one of your residences. It was strategically, I think Mary Sheffield said, I know it's an hour and a half.
It takes you an hour and a half to get
drive
here.
from Oakland Township.
Yeah, right.
And she just kind of left it there for viewers to draw that line.
You got to love debate prep. You know, this was all debate prep. He did better than he has previously, and I know that's coming from the debate prep, but Mary did very well, and it was strategic the way she laid it out. She had an answer for pretty much everything that Mr. Kinloch came up with. So I kind of, applaud both sides with, their preparation and their candidates.
I will also say this, though. I think watching the debate last night was a clear indication that when you want to be mayor of the city of Detroit, you need to be out there 2 years ahead of time, which is what Mary has been doing. And the reality of it is what you saw last night was a prepared candidate, someone who has wanted this for a very long time, who has been thinking about it, and who jumped out before anybody else got in this race. And, she's built a campaign that's a force. I mean, her ads ran immediately after the debate. I've seen an ad every morning. I've seen an ad every evening, both in the morning news and in the nightly news. That's preparation. That's somebody deciding early on, I'm going to run a strong campaign. I'm going to get great advisors. And she's done that since day one. And you can't do anything but applaud her for that. Mayor's race, even some congressional races, you can't decide at the last minute you want to get into those. You got to decide early on, and you got to be strategic about it. And she's done everything right at this point.
And you better figure out a way to get some money.
And you better, listen, if you don't like calling people and begging for their last dollar, then politics is not for you. That's what it is right now. It's a race for money. And you have got to be willing to call everybody 3, 4, 5 times and ask them for every dollar they can give you because...
And once they give more, you call again and ask for even more on top of that.
Believe me, I know it well.
I
lived a little bit of that, so I know it well.
I want to get all your closing thoughts here in a moment, but first let's actually listen to the closing statements from the candidates. They each had 90 seconds.
Detroit, we've come a long way over the past 12 years. And I have to say that it has been an absolute honor to serve you. I've been here with you, alongside you, listening and taking action. Whether it's in our streets, occupying the corners, connecting residents with resources, or standing against gun violence with families, or even creating policies like right to counsel that has kept families in their homes from eviction, or creating the neighborhood improvement fund that has turned blighted lots and dump sites into clean and green spaces, or creating the city's first ever tech startup fund and legacy business grants for our entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have accomplished so much, but I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. Together, we will ensure that opportunity reaches every neighborhood and every family of this city, and that housing is affordable, that our educational outcomes are improved, that our neighborhoods are walkable, vibrant, safe, and invested in, and that every Detroiter, no matter how they start or where they start, has an opportunity to thrive. That is the Detroit that I'm fighting for. Now, tonight we've heard from my opponent misinformation, divisiveness, and no specifics. And Detroit does deserve better. I'm Mary Sheffield. I hope to have your vote to finish the work that we started and build a Detroit that works for all of us. God bless you all, and thank you.
Detroit, we're at a crossroad tonight of opportunity and choice. And we got to make a decision. Do we go back, or do we stay where we are, or do we move forward? We cannot go back to financial oversight. We cannot go back to bankruptcy, and we cannot go back to corruption in leadership in Detroit. We cannot stay where we are. 51%, more than 50% of the children that live in this city, despite everything my opponent has said that she's done, more than 50% of the children are still living in poverty. Despite everything that she's done, the poverty rate is the highest it has been since 2017. Crime is at an all-time high. We cannot stay where we are. We got to move forward. And the question becomes, do you move forward with a manager and an administrator who wants to maintain the status quo and look out for two or a few Detroiters, look out for downtown and forget about the rest of the town? Or do you want to move forward with someone for the last 27 years has stepped up and stood up and fought for you and will continue to fight for you as the next mayor? We need to build a city that's not just working for some. We need to build a city that's working for all, and that's what Solomon Kinloch will do.
All righty. Jason, I'll start with you. Do you think those statements were effective?
If there was more substance, I think there's opportunities, and we've touched on it a little bit, but if you're going to go into a debate and say, okay, here's our number one talking point, the poverty rate is higher. We just found this out. We're going to hammer that home. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means if you really drive it home, that's 223,000 people in this city that live below the poverty line. Give me more on how you're going to change that. What has your church done? Because the church has done things with passing out food and done good things. How can you translate that to the mayor's office? And at the same time, if you're going to attack your opponent with that, also throw out some solutions, because I think there's an easy way to do that. And suddenly people at home are like, boy, that's a lot of people. And then in both campaigns have said, we want to make this about taking it to the neighborhoods rather than downtown. This is a great way to dive right into it for both campaigns.
How do you think they did in closings?
I think closings, you can prepare for it. You know exactly what you're going to say. It's not a response to a question. So I think they both did well. I think, Solomon had the advantage of going last, so he was able to sort of be more forceful there than he had been throughout the night. Do I think it's going to make a substantive difference in the minds of voters? Not really. I think that, again, I think the thing that Solomon missed was the idea of putting out a true plan. And I think if he had done that, he would have scored some points where maybe he didn't last night.
Right.
So we now have 2 weeks and a couple of days until the election.
Right.
What changes in the next 2 weeks? What should we see? What will we see? I guess there are two different questions.
You're going to see a lot of ads. They're going to just spend all the money they have to put out there. I don't think that Mary Sheffield is going to hold back, even though I think we all know that she has a lead. I think, if I was the Kinloch people, look, I'm going to talk to you right now.
Directly into the camera.
Take that closing and make a commercial out of it and just run it nonstop. Just run it nonstop. Just go for it. I've seen people turn around campaigns that have been distanced and far apart in a week. It's not impossible, but
it's still October. There's an October surprise possible.
But you got to work hard, and you have to make sure that you get your message to the people, and you better come up with some substance fast.
And you got to have some money. Even run that commercial.
Has the race been decided already?
It feels a bit like it's over. Again,
I don't
Mario,
want to go
Jason,
there yet.
they both said
No, I would say the odds for Kinloch to turn this around, historically, is not in his favor. But I don't want to discourage his people or folks.
No,
from
I
going
don't
to the
either.
polls.
I would listen. I would love to see a true race in this last 6 weeks or whatever it is, month or so.
Yeah, we live for that stuff.
We do, we do. And so, I would love to see it. I think that he's going to have a ground game that is, that just is spotless, right?
Sure.
He's going to have people everywhere. He's going to have people at the polls on election day. If he can do it, I mean, we'd be surprised, but we'd be happy about it to see it.
It's not a question for me, obviously, but I would just say that at the All-Star break, people said, hey, the Tigers, how much are they going to win the division by?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
That's true.
They didn't win the division.
Great analogy.
But actually,
you never know.
And you brought up an interesting point earlier. You're going to have Mary Sheffield on Flashpoint this weekend.
Yes.
And Kinloch will not be there.
This would be a message.
Is it too late?
It is not too late.
Never too late.
As soon as they say, we would like to be on Flashpoint, one of the last 2 episodes before the election will be yours.
They need to do it.
They just got to let me know.
Yeah. Jason's door is always open. All right, Mario, Portia, Jason, thank you so much for coming in.